Hi, it's Hannah here. I am in the greenhouse and I am transplanting out some willow trees that I got. I have a dwarf willow, which gets to be about the size of a bush. And then I have a white willow, which is like 10 to 15 feet, depending on the individual plant. And so I had them as cuttings. That's how I ordered them. And they arrived as cuttings. And now I have gotten them to where the cuttings have bloomed. So see how they all have leaves on them, and the roots, like when they were in this little container, the roots were still down. They were coming out of the bottom of it. And so that's how you can tell that they're ready to go and be potted on. So once they get some leaves and you can see a little bit of roots, then you can move them up into a bigger thing. And it's so cold in Oklahoma right now. I had a lid on them, but I took the lid off too soon and gave them a little too much air too soon. And so they got burned on the ends of their leaves. Only a couple of them, but you can see I went through and cut some of the dead off. And what that does is it actually encourages the plant to grow more. So where it was dead, it is now about to be growing new leaves and being prosperous. So that's good. At least there's things we can do. Also, I had a mum for Thanksgiving, as you do. And so turns out it was 2 mums. I love it when I get a surprise plant in my pot. It makes me really happy. But so I got 2 mums, and they also got hit by a freeze. And so I've trimmed off the excess, and I have, like, all of the dead part is now in my compost bin. And so I have trimmed that off. And again, the trimming will encourage new growth. So I'm going to split those 2 into 2 pots, and then I'm going to put some of this lovely stuff. It's a microzomial inoculants. I don't know, but it is a hormone in a little grain. It's like, it looks like little pea-size gravel pieces. That's probably better shot for you guys. But it's a hormone, and it's one that the plants already produce when they are rooting. So it's a hormone that it tells them to go ahead and root. And so it helps get them growing again. Now this plant, you can see it still has some little green buds. All of these stems are green and growing. Now everything else looked like this. I mean, it was all dead. So if you had just walked by it, you would have thought the plant was dead, but it's not. And so I can split it. It's still viable. So that's really cool. And then today is the day that we have the skid steer. And so you remember when I got on here and I was like, we're going to cut the garden and it's going to be done today and it's going to look fat. No. So we got a skid steer, and the very first thing that happened was the ramp that goes down to get the skid steer out of my truck split in 2 like this. And so the the sod cutter went right in between those 2 pieces of ramp and cranked my thumb. I've been wearing a thumb brace for a week and a half now. And then I was carrying a big pot of soil to plant some irises that my mother-in-law gave me, and they're awesome. They're an heirloom, and so I'm really excited about that. They came from her mother-in-law's cabin, and so I'm excited to have them. Anyway, but I was walking and planting these irises, and I found the only hole in my entire front yard, and put my foot in it and turned my bad ankle. I've already had ankle surgery. So RA does this thing where it makes your body it overreacts to things. Okay, so my immune system's trying to kill me, essentially. So it attacks itself, and so it's like bored, and then if something happens, it overreacts. And so now I have a broken hand and a broken thumb joint, and a chipped inner ankle. So I'm walking around with a broken ankle and a chipped hand, but we are still going. I'm still planting. I can do things when I'm sitting, and that's just kind of how you learn to live when you have RA. Like, shit happens all the time. I'm always hurting myself, but you go on because you have to. And so I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to enjoy it really hard. And that's what I'm doing with Romance Blooms, is I'm doing the things that I love doing because I love doing them, because life is short. So yeah. All right. So we are taking the skid steer and we're putting a ton of dirt now. Well, my husband is. My husband's the one with the CDL. And so he doesn't like to let me drive machinery, also because I am accident prone, as you can tell. But so he has been scraping all of the grass, all of the sod off of where the garden is going to go, because that sod cutter cut it, but it didn't remove it. And so I tried to get down on my hands and knees and like roll it up, but that didn't work out very well because I had a broken hand. I just didn't know it, and that's heavy. So and then my husband tried it too, and he was like, no, this is a no-go. And so we decided we had to rent a skid steer, and so we've rented a skid steer, and it's here. And the place we got it from was like, hey, if you rent on Friday, it's only one day and you don't have to take it back until Monday because we're not open on the weekend. I was like, sweet. And so we did that. And now I've gone to the local nursery, the one that's giving me the great deal on the garden dirt. And so I have a pickup truck full of dirt. And we are going to use the skid steer to unload it onto where the garden goes. And then I have been looking everywhere for manure. So I tried to go out to the horse place in town, the OSU Equestrian Center, the Equine Center. And their poop, which was awesome. They were going to let me have like a big old truck full of poop. But it's covered in sawdust from being in the stalls. And so it's covered in these pine chips that acidify the soil. And most plants don't love that. There are a few that do. So I could have a little section for my few that like acidic soil. But yeah, I couldn't use it, and I was so sad. And so now I'm looking everywhere to try to find, I mean, this is Oklahoma. If there's not cow poop somewhere for me to find for my plants, like, I'm doing something wrong. So I'm going to go look into getting some free poo-poo for my garden. And I'm trying to find it this weekend too, because I have a skid steer. And if I do it after this, guess who's doing it by hand with the shovel? And I don't want to, because I paid for a skid steer. Because I thought I was going to have horse poop this weekend. Anyway, so hopefully by the end of this weekend, it is not going as quickly as I thought it would, but hopefully by the end of this weekend, the garden will actually look somewhat like a garden. It will have the grass gone, the soil in it, fertilizer down. I'm doing all natural fertilizers. Whoop. And then I'm going to put down this fabric. I got black fabric that's white on the top, so it reflects the sun. And what that does is that helps with the UV light transfer to the plants when they're photosynthesizing, which means they're turning the sun into food. It's gonna be and so I'm gonna put that fabric down, and it's gonna help the plants have really pretty flowers. Essentially, it's gonna help with their blooming, but it's also gonna protect the garden from weeds over the winter. So that's what we're doing today. It's a lot. We're very busy. It is very cold and windy, hence my little ear cover here that my mother-in-law also gave me. She's a sweet lady. Okay, well, that's it for me today. Anyway, I'm sure I will talk to you again soon. I can't wait to show you some before and afters and during. I took a little video of me crawling, trying to move that sod. It is hilarious. Anyway, thank you for being here. You're lovely. I appreciate you. And tell your friends about Romance Bloom so we can spread the word.